Welcome to MiSci. I'm Max Sudduth, the Executive Director. My grandmother taught me that you're judged by the company you keep, and I'm proud to be in such good company tonight. Manufacturing Week is an opportunity for the general public to understand the changing nature of manufacturing and its importance to our economy. MiSci tries to support manufacturing and STEM education through our planetarium shows and our hands-on exhibits and programs. And in fact, I'd like to invite you to come back for some of our coming programs. On August the 23rd, we'll be doing chemistry and cocktails on a Thursday evening. On November the 7th, 8th, and 9th, we'll be doing the Capital Region Science Festival. And on the day after Thanksgiving, we open our annual holiday exhibit, Science Toys and Trains. They're all popular, and we hope that you come back and enjoy them. The pen is mightier than the sword, and it's also mightier than the memory. I think as the Regional Science Center, we're proud to host this panel discussion and to talk about this exciting new STEM resource at Mohonasen. And we're proud to be in such good company, and especially the partners that made Manufacturing Week such a great success. I see some of the partners in the audience, and thank you very much. And now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce the discussion panel moderator, 20th District Congressman Paul Tonko.
Thank you, Dr. Mack, and welcome everyone to what I think will be a really engaging bit of dialogue that allows us to speak to the forcefulness of the manufacturing sector and the changing science incorporated with that arena, that sector of our economy. As Dr. Mack indicated, I have the honor of representing the region through the 20th Congressional District in the House of Representatives, but I'm also seated on the Energy and Commerce Committee and am ranker on the Environment and the Economy Subcommittee. And so much of the commerce issues, the international and national domestic commerce agenda, are brought to the committee's attention. And I really am a believer in a new surge of a manufacturing economy that will serve our national economy well. And certainly that's evidenced in this region, where there is this growing sense of innovation, economy jobs, clean energy jobs, certainly high-tech jobs. And that's a strong statement. You know, manufacturing is about 12% of our GDP, but it's a far greater ripple effect onto our R&D elements, onto our employee counts, onto our patents that are assigned to different wonderful discoveries and opportunities and concepts. So it's a huge multiplier in our economy. And then the ancillary forces that feed manufacturing are another significant bit of employment opportunity. So we're really gifted, I think, in this region to be part of a surge on manufacturing that can serve as inspiration and challenge to the rest of the state, and for that matter, the nation. We have constant tours that we do in the district, and we're always amazed. Chad was with us today, he's nodding. We were at Advanced Robotics today. Marilyn Smith is with us, who does our economic development work here in the district. But we do these routine tours, and today it was robotics. And we found a huge robot. I mean, I felt diminished by this robot. And before we went in the room, one of the workers at robotics said, well, wait till you see her, and wait till you see what she does. And everything was in the female vernacular. And I said, she? And she said, well, my dad taught me that a long time ago. All these great things are about women. I said, okay, look, we named Hurricane, absolutely, applause. But we name hurricanes, so why can't we name robots? So one of the orders of business today was to start with the alphabet and come up with a good A name for the robot, and the consensus was Adele. So I happened to wear, Dr. Spring, the right color tie, because the robot was wearing an orange outfit. And it's also a Mohonasen touch. So I know we have other school systems here, but a great number of students from Mohonasen. So Adele taught us today that, wow, she was like a dinosaur, just crawling around, twisting her neck, picking up things, changing the arm so that she could do other things. And just amazing to see the engineering that's applied, the sophistication, the know-how, where from associate's degrees, certainly high school education, important, BOCES, networking, important, apprenticeships, associate degrees, all the way over to PhDs. It's impacting all sectors of the education arena and the academic backgrounds. So it holds great promise. And as we go through all of these tours, you know, whether it's 3D printing or energy efficiency and innovation economy, robotics, no matter what, it's a changing world out there. And I'm part of a caucus within the House that speaks to a Make It in America agenda. 70-some bills going from incentives to an impact on exporting to development of the physical and capital and human infrastructure needs of manufacturing so we can transition over to advanced manufacturing. Many in manufacturing will say, we're already there, we are advanced, but anything we can do to infuse that further development of manufacturing, we need to, so that we can maintain a leadership status. And I would hope that's driven by our culture here in the 20th Congressional District, because we're the donor area to the Erie Canal, which gave a spark to a westward movement. And that necklace of communities that developed from the canal's construction became dubbed mill towns, which then were the epicenters of invention and innovation. And I think that pioneer spirit is part of our DNA. And so we take that and we work it into a new order of investment. Certainly investment is required for research, workforce development, training, retraining, retooling our industry with, again, concepts that are yet unseen or unheard. And radar, jobs not yet on the radar screen, developing as we do that. So it's an exciting time. And as we've talked, many of us tonight, aren't we inspired by the students here? I mean, they are just driven about change and innovation, and they're into it big time. And we're going to hear about that tonight. So look, let me just close by suggesting that those who are the doomsayers and say manufacturing has had its heyday and it's a thing of the past, let us be reminded that manufacturing is not dirty, it's not dumb, it's not dangerous, and it's not disappearing. But rather, manufacturing is safe, it's sustainable, it's smart, and indeed, it's surging. So we're on our way to a total commitment to manufacturing, and let's make it happen. I will now sit, because that formal part for me is over. I'm facilitator because we've got great voices at the table that are going to lead us in discussion and dialogue and advocacy, I would bet. You have the bios in this wonderful pamphlet that was handed out in the midst of this Manufacturing Week being celebrated here. But for the sake of introduction, let me at least name the individuals at the table and also put a tag onto that. We have Dr. Kathleen Spring, who is right in the middle of those to my left here. Dr. Spring is the Mohonasen Central School District Superintendent, and I would say a very progressive superintendent at that. I had the good fortune of serving in the legislature for 25 years, and Mohonasen was in my assembly district from day one to day last. So was always happy to work with the district, and welcome, Kathleen, Dr. Spring. And seated to my immediate left is Dr. Charles Diedrich, who I will refer to as Chuck. I've always known him as Chuck, and we knew each other again in his role as a superintendent with the local school system, but now he's the Capital Region BOCES District Superintendent. Again, BOCES a main player here in this whole outcome of skills development. And by the way, I should suggest that as I walked in, I was so impressed by the 3 banners hanging behind us. Those are powerful statements coming from Schenectady County Community College, from BOCES, and from Mohonasen. True believers in tomorrow's leaders, today's leaders, I will say. Our students are today's leaders when you see them out there doing what they're doing. To my immediate right, we have Dr. Martha Aslin of Schenectady County Community College, serving as acting president. I've known Martha for a long time. I love the role of our community colleges. They are the campus of choice oftentimes. and they're there in the training retraining adventure, which is so very important. Let's see, we also have Eileen Barino, who is in the audience, who is the COO at Greeno Industries, and a friend from my hometown of Amsterdam. And Eileen, thank you for joining us tonight. And if you have any comments during the course of the discussion, do not be bashful.
I just want to say that this week we participated on Monday in National Manufacturing Week, which was quite exciting. We had 2 different tours from Mohonasen. I've worked with the school for about 4 years now, and it was wonderful because there were younger 9th graders there. But my only comment is, and from my heart, is that we have to reach kids in the elementary school and really teach them that, to have the emphasis on their skill sets of all the STEM, but that manufacturing is alive and thriving today, and there are good paying salaries.
And good work conditions.
Absolutely. One of the teachers that was there, we said, I was saying to the students, these salaries can pay 6 figures. And she said, she looked at all of them and said, that's more than I'm making today. And I've been in education for X amount of years. And, really caught their attention. So I just hope that parents start to encourage their children to really think about manufacturing, because it's what the United States of America is built on. Thank you.
Wonderful. And to that comment also, I was recently at the ribbon cutting for the fuel cell manufacturing location in Step Park in Saratoga in Malta. And it's a GE affiliate, and just amazing to see, like, you could eat off the floor. So this whole craziness of what manufacturing is and this concept is totally off the mark. To Martha's right is Matthew Gratton of Schenectady County Community College. He's the executive director of the workforce development team. So thank you, Matt, for being here. Matthew, for being here. And to his right, we have Chris Ringley of Greeno Industries as the manager of production quality control. And Chris, we welcome you here this evening also. And finally, last and most importantly, we have a student perspective, so we saved you to the end. And we have a very bright and active student who is just a wonderful inspiration. We have Konika Shahal. Did I say that correctly? Okay, and I asked her beforehand, and I'm still trying to figure out if I said it correctly. But anyhow, she is going to give us a great student perspective. And Konika, thank you for joining us. She's a member of the Mohonasen High School student body. And she can tell us all the other good things she does too. So that's the intros, and we'll get into where we want to go here. And again, to our host, to Dr. Mack, let me say thank you for leading a great organization with such pizzazz and such enthusiasm. And thank you for reminding us that we are deep in the culture of invention and innovation. And this wonderful collection at the MiSci Center is phenomenal. It's phenomenal, and it just challenges us to keep building on our progress. So thank you. Thank you for being just a great host and running a great organization. Why don't we start with Dr. Spring? And Kathleen, if you can, please just share for us your vision that is incorporated, embraced by the Center for Advanced Technology at Mohonasen. I know that it was an order of investment that the taxpayers had to say yes to, so hooray, hooray for that. And again, share the vision, please.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. All right. I just want to start by saying thank you very much for inviting me here to represent Mohonasen. I'm so proud to be able to do that and get in at the ground level of this exciting manufacturing week and what I think is going to be the hub of Schenectady County in the future. To talk a little bit about Mohonasen, I'm a real context kind of person, so I want to talk a little bit about something that Congressman Tonko said about the pioneering spirit and innovation. When I interviewed at Mohonasen 14 years ago, it was pretty clear to me that I finally met my match. I had moved around a lot because after 3 or 4 years in a place, I got itchy. I wasn't challenged enough. But when I sat through the interview process, what I heard loud and clear was this was a place that expected creativity and encouraged it, always looked at students and wanted us to tailor programs for students. Also, the order of business was being prepared to change and be ahead of the curve. And to take on challenges as opportunities. And here I am 14 years later, so obviously it was a match. And I guess that when you look at the pictures of the building that we're talking about, the Center for Technology at Mohonasen, it kind of symbolizes that spirit that I talk about with Mohonasen. It's definitely different, it's creative, and it encapsulates all the things we think about what education needs to be. Sometimes you have to have a structure to break the mold, a new structure. And we have such a picture in our head of what high school education looks like or what education looks like that you really need to think differently about it. So we started talking about this project maybe about 7 years ago. We just kept discussing it and discussing it. And then all of a sudden we were faced with a lot of fiscal challenges. But the leadership at Mohonasen, in particular the board, they're real innovators as well, and they believe that you have to take risks to do what's right for kids. So they encouraged us through discussion to think out of the box and not to kind of lie down and say we're resigned that we may go out of business because we're losing money, to not think status quo and think innovatively. And so we started talking about what could we do to make programs relevant for our students, more relevant than we felt that they were, to make them see that it was important to stick it out and get through high school so that they had opportunities, and just to do things that are engaging and interesting. And so what we looked at was the needs in the area. And we started to talk about what could we do that was different. And we decided to talk about, we called them MoTech programs to start with. And that was because originally I'd gone to BOCES, Chuck was not there at that point, and asked if we could do some creative programs, and there wasn't the capability to do that at that point. So I said, okay, we'll do something ourselves. But then when Chuck came aboard and I talked to him, he said, let's start talking about this. And it just made sense. During the fiscal crisis with schools, the school board in my district said, let's not lie down and be status quo. Let's think ahead of the curve. Let's do something different so that people will notice us and maybe it will make us viable to stay alive for our students. And so that's what we did. And we created this vision of a building that offers programs that we think are college and career prep for students, that offers things like manufacturing and machining and welding, health sciences, looks at media arts and communication, all areas that we know are areas of need, and there's employment and careers for our students. So knowing that we needed to focus on careers and college, we talked to Chuck again, and then we started talking to Schenectady Community College. And even though these partnerships are not real clean at this point, they're very new, and we know it will be a lot of work. Both entities said, let's do it, we're in. So that's where we're at this point. And we hope that this will be the start of something really unique in this area, where we can train students and push them through the pipeline to stay here and help generate economic growth in the area.
Yeah. You know, Dr. Spring, two things come to mind as you're speaking. One, math was always my favorite subject, so I can't relate to this as well. But there's a fear factor, I'm told, with math and science. And I couldn't help but think as you were talking that the interactive quality of the program takes that fear factor away, and it's hands-on, and it becomes fun and interesting and creative. And the other thing is the amount of jobs that are available that aren't filled because of a lack of skill set for that particular job. So as we transition into this manufacturing growth in our region and the innovation economy, these skill sets become even more pertinent to the outcome for the future worker and the students of today.
Absolutely.
Next, we'll ask Dr. Diedrich if he could describe for us the changing thinking, I believe, at BOCES, where you go from a single campus approach to what you're calling the pod-centered approach with BOCES. And just how does that affect or partner with Mohanison, for example, and your component districts? But again, we heard at the Robotics Center today, they were talking about two centers in the world and their system that manufacture. One is in Italy and the other is here in our region. And I said, any difference? He said, they go right to their machinists in-house. And we have to contract out. And where you don't have those machinists. And our students don't know that there's great opportunities if you want to work with your hands and design this machinery and be that craft person. And so all of that thrown out there, Chuck, if you would, just respond to the changing, the evolving thinking over at BOCES.
The landscape is changing beneath our feet on a daily basis. And the fact is that I'll tell you a few things that I guess you could look at in a positive way and a couple of things you might look at in a negative way. Kathleen touched on the economic situation that has existed for public schools over the course of the last 5-6 years. The fact is that one of the factors, this is one of those things that just is what it is. Back when the tax cap was enacted, the property tax cap was enacted, one of the unintended consequences of the tax cap that very few people actually are aware of is that when a school district does a building project, it is exempt from the tax cap calculation. When a BOCES does a capital project, it isn't. So in New York State, any building project that's completed by a BOCES would have to be approved by the component districts, and it would count against Mohanison's tax cap, Niskayuna's tax cap, Schenectady's tax, on and on and on. 23 school districts, it would count against their tax cap. So the fact is that our students come from those districts. Our students deserve 21st century facilities just as much as any other student does. But the fact is that one of the things that we have to learn to do is to work more with our school districts because of the tax cap that's in place right now. Another thing, BOCES by its nature is a partner. And for us to turn away someone who's interested in being a partner, I think goes against what our mission is. Our mission is to partner for the good of children, for our students. And if a superintendent comes to us with an idea that could benefit our students, it's important for us to listen and see if there's a way to do something. When Kathleen, I'm going to say this about Kathleen right now. Kathleen may seem quiet and and she unassuming. She is one of the sharpest, smartest superintendents this region has ever had and will ever have. She has an incredible vision for what's good for kids. And the fact is, and this is what I'll tell you, I have people come to me all the time saying, we closed the school 3 years ago. Does BOCES have any use for that? That's not what Dr. Spring came to me with. Dr. Spring came to me with this idea for this brand new building that was going to be on newly acquired land, and this idea for this big partnership. And as soon as that was explained to me, we were in, because it was different, there was vision involved, and it was definitely going to be good for kids. So at a couple of points, I know in the process when the economy was kind of dipping and there was talk that, well, we may not be able to go with the whole building. And Kathleen and I had some frank conversations. If it's not a standalone building, I'm not sure if we can be in on that, but we could still talk. We could talk a little bit about it. But to her and her board's credit, in an incredible downtime in education to get that through was quite amazing. Another factor, I will be honest with you, the days of saying no to our components are long gone. The fact is that Mohonasen is going to run a CTE program whether BOCES is involved with it or not. And the fact is that school districts are going to do that for a variety of reasons. One big reason, yes, there's BOCES aid. There is BOCES aid, but you know what? There's also the transportation of students. There's also a lot of other factors that get counted into the equation. And if our larger school districts start solely running their own CTE programs, which I can understand why. Keep the kids in district, and there's lots of other reasons that there's not enough time to go through. But the fact is that if we lose our larger districts who are our partners, then what happens to the medium and the small districts? What happens to the Schoharies of the world, or the Green Islands of the world, or the Watervliets of the world? Because the fact is those districts are in absolute economic peril and they can't afford to run their own programs, and it's going to hurt their kids and it's going to hurt students in the region. So the fact is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with partners who have a vision for something different, for something unique, for something that will help our area, for something that will help students. And this is the first of quite a few of those partnerships that I see springing up around the capital region that's going to be really good for kids. And I need to say this, you know, one of the things that we love to hang our hat on in education is data. And so often in our life we think, I'm going to mention special needs children, kids with special needs. We're talking a broad spectrum of children with special needs. The fact is, the graduation rate for children with special needs in New York State is terrible. It runs about 35%. It is disgraceful. But a student with special needs who has 1 year of career and technical education in this region, in the capital region, Saratoga region, out toward Amsterdam, the graduation rate goes up to 62%. For a student with special needs with 2 years of career and technical education, the graduation rate goes up to almost 90%. The fact is that we can't leave 15% of our student population behind simply because we don't offer the right kind of programs for them. This is about, and these programs aren't all for a certain type of student. Programs are for all students, and that's the important thing. And by doing all of these programs, I think we're going to float the boat higher and higher and higher in this region, and it's going to be all around good for a lot of students and a lot of kids in the region and a lot of economic development in the region as well.
Thank you, Chuck. And yeah, great vision, great plans coming from within the BOCES district and certainly through Mohonasen's efforts and others. And the Schenectady County Community College campus is one that is looking to partner with all this activity. And Dr. Aslan, what do you see the role here being for the community college campus? Is there any adjustment being made at SECC? Is there a new programmatic effort taken hold? I know that you've been involved somewhat with the clean energy innovation economy, but this is addressing it from another area. And I will lean this way while we're going this way with discussion. Keep in mind what Eileen had asked about getting into the middle school arena. So we'll maybe talk about that, how we, and it would be great to hear students thinking on that too. So, Martha.
Sure. To begin, is this on? Can you hear me?
This is.
This is? Okay. To begin with, let me just explain what the mission of a community college is, and it's all about this partnership that you're hearing about. The mission of a community college is basically we are open access, flexibility, adaptability, looking at what are the needs for the workforce and how do we get people to achieve what it is that we need them. We want to keep them in New York State. We want to get them to the degree and then keep them working in New York State or nationally, other places. When we were approached about this opportunity, is basically what Chuck was saying. It's a no-brainer. It makes great sense. A community college coming from the standpoints that education should be anytime, anyone, any place, anywhere. This meets that 100% mission of what we have and the vision that we have as a community college. What we bring to the plate and bring to the table is unique. Where the college sits right now, we're kind of landlocked. We have the river, we have 890. We have to start thinking outside of the box too. And we've got to start thinking about how are we also tapping into the resources of our local residents that are here to make sure that we're providing them with every avenue that they possibly can have to get into higher education. Because again, you want people to complete high school and we want them to go on because that's where the money's going to be made and we want them to thrive and survive in our society. So when we were approached to join this, it worked out beautifully. The piece that we bring to the table, we're going to enhance the college and the high school experience that we already are offering for students. And college and the high school is basically a student is dual enrolled at the college, at the community college, at the same time that they're completing their high school courses. We've had a couple model programs out there where we're starting students as early as 9th grade to start taking some college courses. So when we start talking about going down to earlier levels, that's the great thing. When you want to capture a student to get them interested in math and science, there's so many studies out there that are showing you want to grab them in the 3rd grade and the 4th grade. So as we're looking at this approach, and the beauty about this collaborative effort is we're going to be able to expand this, and it's going to grow as we are building what this program is going to be. So the community college will be offering the college and the high school courses. We're looking at also opening up, using this space for non-high school students, but looking at possibly weekends, but definitely in the evening when the school is not using it for classes. We hope to capture veterans, people that are looking to get, Matt will talk about workforce training. So other people that are living in our community that can tap into what this beautiful resource has. We have been looking at building a science center, and again, landlocked. It's very difficult. Budget, very difficult. We've come up with so many challenges. This was an opportunity. And to join forces and to have a state-of-the-art facility where we're going to have a lot of state-of-the-art technology and having our students be able to learn right with modern technology that you're going to be using right in the field, it's beautiful. And if we can get them a year under their belt while they're in high school of college credits and then have that transfer on, we're getting them ready to go into that workforce even sooner. And I see this also opening up great opportunities for not only internships, co-ops, other things that we're going to get the students further trained. It's an integrated learning experience that they're going to have. So it's just a no-brainer, as Chuck was saying.
Great. You know, today, again, when we were at Applied Robotics, one of their leaders, who happens to be a Clarkson grad engineer, I want to get that commercial out there, asked Marilyn and myself, are there resources that we can get because we don't have the available cash, but we would love to run an intern program here with our robotics cage and just put them in that playground and allow them to do things and work with the design formats and all. So here's a good incentive for a public-private partnership to maybe come up with resources that can be matched with private sector commitment to run an internship program. Matt, we're going to go to you after we go to Chris, but I want you to respond to Chris because he's going to tell us about the current skill set concerns or needs or strengths that you see out there, and also the future skill sets. And then Matt will have you respond in terms of what the retraining of the adult community is about and what the training, job readiness is for the student population, okay? So Chris, why don't you tell us about the needs or concerns or the shortfall, if it's there, or the strength that you see today and into the future.
Respond first by saying
Is that on, by the way? I want to make sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, hold on. They say this one's on.
This one's on? All right. Volume's better on this?
Yeah.
I'm very encouraged to participate in this panel, and the brief conversations that I had just prior to the commencement really underscored the unanimity of vision that we have together. And this is exactly the kind of power that we need to get things done. As a response to the question of observed skills gap in current workforce, as a manufacturing concern, we've experienced our younger interns and new hires to come equipped with a good basic understanding of their roles as CNC and manual machinists. There are some specific deficits, but they come from areas such as more technical blueprint reading, the technical side of geometric tolerancing, and I recognize specifically that the mastery of these disciplines is something that comes with accumulated experience. For us, however, responding to the skills gap question is more a matter of addressing significant downturn in not only the number of available qualified individuals already in the profession, but a disturbingly low number of younger people who are showing no interest in participating as this is a viable career path. I believe that a large percentage of our next generation are looking to enter the workforce. They're shouldering a disparity between the extraordinary proficiency that they possess with dependency upon information information but they have a fundamental lack of understanding and enthusiasm for tackling the disciplines in the engineering and manufacturing fields. In my opinion, initial exposure to careers in engineering and manufacturing fields needs to find their introduction to students prior to the entry of high school, as was my case. I was very fortunate to start in machine shops at the age of 13. So I had something that was very, very important to me was the ability to show creativity at a young age, and I just was continued. The thrust of work we do it's component manufacturing for the power generation and energy resource industries, and we see the future of being a supplier to machine components to these industries as remaining quite viable. However, it really hasn't escaped our notice that with other countries rapidly developing workforce infrastructures, they're very eager to step forward with this sort of manufacturing, and with the high levels of enthusiasm for increased standards of living coupled with low labor rates, we face real potentials of once again enduring loss of work, this time through attrition of skilled workforce. Therefore, with a focus on the future, strong, well-supported machine tool tech programs such as the one current at Mohannes and BOCES and the program anticipated at ATREC, these are real solutions to advance our young adults towards challenging, viable, and important careers in manufacturing.
Interesting. You talk about the downturn in the numbers. What is distracting them mostly? Do you see a career path that they're looking at that is pulling their focus off of manufacturing and technical based jobs?
I actually don't see what they're going for.
It's interesting because I'll talk to you. Sure. If you want to comment to that. Yeah. Here.
One of the we have some absolutely amazing teachers at the elementary level, but the fact is that most of our elementary teachers are really, really good reading teachers. What they're not is they're not science teachers or math teachers. And that is not a knock in any way against our elementary teachers. It has to do with the New York State certification system. The certification system for elementary teachers doesn't take into account at all any type of math or science when it comes to teaching elementary school. So what we get is we get some incredibly dedicated teachers who are ELA reading teachers at heart. They're not scientists at heart. They're not mathematicians at heart. And we need more of that at the elementary level. The fact is, and this gets into that a lot of the percentage of women who are teaching today is about the same as it was 40 years ago. Yet the percentage of women who are now doctors and architects and engineers has boomed, where actually those schools, it's greater than 50% now are women. So women now have a lot more available to them in terms of careers, whereas 40 years ago, women who were strong in science and math, they didn't. Most became teachers or nurses. And those teachers, that love of science came through. Now what's happening is that between the certification system and other career options, that's not happening. Somehow we have to work on the certification system in New York so that people with science and math background are in the elementary schools. That would be a big step toward helping our kids really latch on to science and math in careers.
Interesting point, because I've put together some legislation in Washington that would offer somewhat of a fungible notion for some of the resources, giving more flexibility to the school dollars so you could train and incorporate the STEM perspective within the workforce development within the infrastructure of schools, so that you can get that sort of connection to math and science. I think it's so critically important. You know, even when I was going to make the comment that even when I talk to utility types who are hiring folks, with the scant numbers of engineers we're producing, they want to go make video games, and they don't want to work at an electric utility plant. So, you know, the warning signals have been out there for a long time, and we in the public policy area have not paid attention to those warning signals. When we're producing, as a society, of any college graduating class, 4 to 5% of engineers and scientists, when European cultures are somewhere between 16 and 20, and Asian cultures are well past 20%. That's been out there for a long time, and we need to take heed. And we need to make certain that we're a society that invents and discovers and creates and explores and designs, all those active verbs that really have the creative juices flowing, which I think are important. So, yeah, the challenges are out there, and we need to read the signals well so that we're not failing in our commitment. Well, let's go to Matt to hear a response to how the workforce development area of the campus, Schenectady Community College campus, is responding to those envisioned skill sets and those immediately needed.
Sure, Congressman. The Workforce Development Division of most community colleges usually tends to be the non-credit training division. Community colleges, probably more than four-year publics and four-year private schools, have a rather robust non-credit offering. We are mandated partners in the One-Stop Career Center and Workforce Investment Act system. That is the federally driven employment and training system that really drives employment and training dollars and how they flow from the federal government down to states. So the community colleges, it's one funding source, and that legislation, thank you, Congressman, was recently just reauthorized under a new bill called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So community colleges have been very active in non-credit training as well. Where the non-credit training fits in is really that ability to be able to, and a lot of the discussion obviously is focused on the pipeline, on the youth. But when you look at the definition of workforce development, it has multiple layers to it. And when you speak, and I do a lot of business and industry outreach and engagement and discussion with businesses, you heard Chris mention it, we need to prime the pipeline. We need to get more youngsters engaged. And I think one of the ways, and Eileen mentioned it, is dinner, Jeff Lawrence calls it dinner table discussions. Parents engaged with their children, educating them about really what manufacturing is, and it's not the 3Ds anymore. But from a bottom line business perspective, there's also short-term needs, and those short-term needs have to be filled with the retraining of adults to get them into positions. You know, Global Foundries is experiencing immense challenges right now in filling technician roles. They're not having no problem filling their PhD positions and their engineering positions. They're having immense problems and challenges filling their technicians, or what we call the middle skills jobs. There's an organization called the National Skills Coalition that has really shown the light on the middle skills crisis in this country. And what middle skills jobs are is jobs that are classified as needing at least a high school diploma, but not quite a four-year baccalaureate degree program. And if anyone is interested, I have a few copies, about 20 copies or so of this National Skills Coalition. They do this chart for every state. And essentially, I want to tell you, the challenges that we face are not unique to New York State. If you look at this chart for every state that it's put out by the National Skills Coalition, it looks very similar. And essentially what the charts show, and these pie charts show, is that for higher level positions that require a bachelor's degree or higher, that the percentage of workers trained in those at that level outpaces the available jobs. And the same with low-skilled positions that require less than a high school diploma. The amount of trained individuals at that level exceeds the numbers of available jobs. But the middle skill is where you see this huge discrepancy and this huge gap, where the number of jobs far exceeds the number of individuals who are trained in that area. In New York State, in 2012, it was 51% of all New York State jobs were defined as middle skill jobs, yet only 39% of the available workforce was trained to that level. In comparison, 33% of all jobs were high skill jobs, yet 40% were trained at a high skill level or a baccalaureate level or higher. So that just gives you some of the crisis that we're in to be able to identify these middle skill opportunities. So what we do a lot in the non-credit division is to be able to retool individuals. Adults who may have been dislocated workers, they may be returning to the workforce, they may be displaced homemakers, they may have been home taking care of family members for a number of years. And provide them with the in-demand skills and tools in a more short-term vocational training program. The other beauty of this collaboration is that it's also very similar to what BOCES does. BOCES runs very similar programs. One of the biggest challenges with these non-credit short-term vocational programs is finding the instructional talent. These are not, the instructors that we use for these types of positions are not instructors that are on a full-time payroll. So we're usually trying to identify individuals who are retired executives, retired technicians, but to find the specific technical skills is a challenge. So there's opportunities here to be able to share non-credit instructors with BOCES, with the community college, and to be able to render and use these types of facilities. We still need access to laboratory facilities. There's pieces of this type of training that we can do on the job, and there are some on-the-job training funds to do that. But and many businesses will look for on-the-job training grants. But when you really talk to the business individuals, they really want to see more individuals coming into employment positions with the prerequisite skills associated with that. So we see a lot of opportunity. There are some credentials out there that we have worked with. BOCES has been offering the Manufacturing Skills Standard Council Certified Production Technician for a period of time, but that credential has wandered and waned off a bit. And again, a lot of this is about demand, and a lot of it's about educating not only the youth, but in many instances the adults as well, who may be looking to re-career or retool. Maybe they've been in service sector positions, working in employment without health care or health insurance benefits. These are the types of jobs in Eileen's facility that are offering health insurance, that are offering, livable wages. And we need to educate more adults as well pertaining to that. I used to work with a colleague at the Department of Labor when I worked there for 19 years, and there is a lot of emphasis, and rightfully so, on the youth. But she always used to say, their parents need jobs too. It is true. So that's the unique nature of the community college, and I think the unique component of this collaboration is that we are really going to be serving, cradle to career in this collaboration, and we're very excited to do that.
Thank you, Matt. And all of the policy development, all the resource advocacy, all the programmatic changes cannot be done without hearing from the people first affected in the school setting. So it cannot be done, it could not be done, and should not be done without the fine-tuning from our students. So, Kanika, we saved you to the end so you could listen to all of this. And tell us, you had somewhat of a choice opportunity, I believe. You could go with traditional electives, or you could go into this wild and new adventure, and you obviously chose the latter. and tell us why. What was the motivation, and what's it been like?
Is this working? Okay. So I choose the engineering CTE pathway, and I believe I chose it because I thought it was interesting. I've never really heard about engineering before I came into high school. Like personally, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. My parents had like sisters and brothers who were doctors. There was like a medical focus in my family. And then I came into high school and I took the IED courses and I followed the engineering CTE pathway. And last year I was an intern on the EDD team, which is the robotics team you saw outside previously. And my mind completely changed. Like I was like, what is this? Like, what is this new pathway that I've never seen before, this engineering pathway? Because I've never really heard of it. There's not a lot of focus on engineering when you're going through like the primary and elementary stages of school. Without like the education, like the adults do need to be educated on all the STEM aspects, because if they don't know about it, how can they tell their students about it, their kids about it, if they have no knowledge in it? Like my parents had no knowledge in engineering, so they didn't have any focus on it, or the math aspects of STEM, or the science aspects. So my personal choice of being in the EDD team, it changed my career choice. Now I hope to major in biomedical engineering, merging the two together. Before high school, I didn't even know what biomedical engineering was.
That's going to keep your parents happy, at least. It's a good
But it was like a great experience. And then I went to various camps over summer, like I went to Clarkson University over the summer for the Horizons program. And I came, and during the second year of the program, we were building Rube Goldberg devices, which was engineering based. And I was the only one who knew what I was talking about. And it like surprised me to see like there's not really an engineering focus in a lot of schools as students grow up. And to be there, and I was like, oh, we should like find the fulcrum and find like the point of velocity. And they're like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're saying. So to have that knowledge, to have that expertise in that area, to stand yourself out from others, it's going to benefit me in my future. And it's benefiting a lot of others. Like last year on the team, I'm going to talk a lot about the EDD team because that's my direct like relationship with the CTE program. Everybody who was on the team went into an engineering degree, engineering or computer science. We had people. It opened up so many pathways for people. We had a girl who went to MIT, a boy who went to Northeastern. To come from a small town like Rotterdam and to go to such big name schools because we have these programs that Mohonasen offered. It's like a remarkable opportunity that not a lot of people have. Like I have friends who live up north in like Canton, New York, in the smaller towns, and they're like, we don't focus at all on engineering or STEM. All we do is the basic liberal arts. So they won't have this background to prepare them for their future. They won't have this like basis of knowledge to make themselves stand out as students as they go into the selective college process. Because getting into college, it's not the easiest thing in the world to pick a college, decide on a college. And to have this knowledge, this background in this area, it's a great, I don't know the right word for it, just a great basis of knowledge to have to go into it, to make yourself stand out in front of all these people from across the world. So it really helped me, and I know that it's helping a lot of other people.
If anybody agrees with me that Konika's a great credit to her school system, could you just show that right now? That is such great insight. To Eileen's challenge early on, like having completed much more recently than any of us middle school, what dynamics would have touched you? Obviously, they may not be able to get into some of the heavy curriculum, but what was an introductory, or what would you envision an introductory piece to have been like in a middle school setting? How much of an outreach to you as a student? Would it come through coursework or visits from engineers in the classroom? Or can you imagine something in the middle school setting that might have been a good teaser, a good introductory piece?
All right, so like to start that off first, I'm going to talk about my middle school experience. When I was in middle school, I wasn't interested in engineering at all. I went through the classes and I was like, this is an elective I have to take, let's just get it over with. And I know that a lot of other people focused on that, like that same thought process also, because what we did, it was very dry in my opinion. Like it didn't really show all the aspects of the engineering world, which now I know is such a broad spectrum. So last year when I was on the EDD team, we had to do a lot of outreach for the team, for the first challenge, and a lot of outreach that we did, we went down to Brott, the primary school. We went down to the elementary school, to the middle school, and we showed them the robot. We were like, this is what you can do with engineering. Not just robot, but you could go to the medical aspects. Or I was talking to a college graduate, and she went into law with her engineering degree. And we said, engineering, it's not just working on computers all day. You're not sticking your head in a computer and just typing code all day. There's so many aspects of engineering that no one really knows it. Like, people know about it, but the students didn't really know about. So when we went last year and we talked about all this, they were like, I want to get into engineering. Like, I've never heard about this. I want to get into the STEM programs because this is what, it's really interesting. Even to be a chef, to have like a basis in engineering, to have that math background, it's going to make you stand out. Whether you go into agriculture or any other diverse field, having a basis, the engineering thought process to break everything down and then rebuild it back up, making things better, and like fixing on, I'm thinking decision matrix in my head right now, to go through all the decision pathways and then go, this is the best way. Like, this is the best way to make this pie. This is the right combination of ingredients. This is the right way to plant the seeds and put the right amount of fertilizer so I have the best crops. So just having that basis in engineering and telling the students about that in middle school, elementary school, and primary school. Telling them that engineering, it isn't just this small little thing. It has such a broad spectrum. You can tap into engineering from any field if you really think about it. So I believe that outreach really helped, because I remember we were doing demo day for Science Honor Society, and we took our robot down to the elementary school. Wow. And we were like, hey guys, do you want to try driving this? This is our robot, this is some of the subsystems, and this is what we did with this. And they were like, whoa. And then we had some of them drive, and they go, this is what I want to do with my life. This is like, I want to make robots. And to have that impact on students, and I know one of them, particularly, like, he's a freshman now, and he's like, I can't wait till EDD, I can't wait till senior year, or junior year to build this robot and then to go off to college and have this like basis of knowledge. So just going down there, I believe, and showing them this is what engineering really is. It isn't just drawing sketches and doing CAD work. There's so many different aspects of engineering, not just engineering, science, mathematics. There's so many different aspects, I'll say that word again, on engineering, and to show them that and to help them realize that engineering, STEM fields in particular, like, you can do anything with them. They will help you anywhere in the world, no matter what field you would like to go into.
Excellent. Gosh, that's wonderful. Great. There's a whole lot of hope coming this way, so I love that. Excellent job. Pardon me? Oh, Jeff, what time is it, by the way? Because we're supposed to...
5:09.
It's 5, oh. Oh, I got nervous. Okay, we're supposed to transition a little later into audience participation, but, you know, we can start now, Jeff.
How much of a difference does it make to have one of your teachers having been an engineer, having worked in business prior to teaching? How much do you think that changes how you look at it and how it's been presented to you?
Okay, Kanika, before you answer, let me just repeat the question in case someone didn't hear it because Jeff didn't have a mic. But what difference does it make to have an instructor, an educator, who's had experience in business and engineering versus not having that background? Did I get that correct? Okay, what difference did it make? Does it make?
Oh, sorry. I believe it makes a great difference, because when I was in middle school, I'm not sure, to be completely honest, if my teachers were engineers in the past, because they didn't really talk about it. But coming to high school, and one of my main engineering teachers was Mr. Walusko, and he was an engineer. He went through the engineering process. He went and he like changed his college majors. He went through all that, and to have that basis of it, like knowledge and experience to talk about. Because I remember I was in Principles of Engineering yesterday, and he was talking about like it's okay to switch your major. Like, engineering isn't the choice for everyone. And but he was also talking about his personal experience with engineering, which really opened a lot of eyes. Like, he was giving us pointers that a teacher who was not an engineer, they definitely could not give, because those pointers were based off of the experience that he had that other teachers who were not engineers could not give.
You know, I think, a great question, Jeff. The statement you made is so powerful, and the transitioning that occurred in your own personal experience, your personal life, is equally powerful. And I think, you know, instead of my asking you some other questions at this point, I would like to get all of our panelists to respond, if you would, please, to Kanika's statements, which I really speak to the kind of need we have out there to connect the real-life job experience to the students. And Dr. Spring, why don't we start with you, Kathleen?
I think that we would totally agree with what Kanika says, and that's why we're trying to offer more hands-on types of experiences. To talk to Elaine's, or Eileen, I'm sorry, statement about going down into the earlier grades. We now have STEM enrichment programs that we're offering to our K through 2 students. And the response is so amazing that we don't have enough people to teach them at this point. So we're starting to build that demand and the expectation so that children are exposed. We also, I'm going to talk a little bit about the retooling of our own faculty because that's really important. We recognized what Chuck talked about, that we didn't have teachers that were comfortable with math and science at the elementary level. And we have a long way to go, but what we've done is we've applied for grants, an STLE grant from the state, and we used all of that money to retrain teachers at the elementary and middle school level, not just science teachers, but elementary teachers, to be comfortable, more comfortable with math and science. And we offered people money to go back to college and take courses, and we didn't get any takers, which was really interesting. So what we decided to do is ask people why. And they said that they couldn't with their family lives, they couldn't go back to a college course. So we created our own in-house to teach new strategies to teachers. And we've been doing that this is our third year. And we also have a female science coordinator who is very enthusiastic and is just infusing things, the applicable kinds of things that Kanika talked about, to excite kids.
You know, and we'll go to Chuck next. And one of the things you hear about, too, is teaching for the test and all the demands of the different levels of testing in the middle school and elementary settings. Does this compete with that? Do you hear something about, we don't have the available time? Just what are the dynamics within the school systems? And Chuck,
I'll go first if you don't mind, because that's a big thing of mine.
We'll agree.
We believe that if the curriculum and the instruction are as powerful as they should be, that you will blow the doors off the test. Right. You don't need to practice for the test except to expose students to the format a few weeks before.
And plus, this is a more creative way to learn. Yep. So, and the joy and the excitement, the energy and enthusiasm in a classroom will then prevail.
Good teaching wins out over test taking every day of the week. We run Tech Valley High School, which is based on project-based learning. It is not just the best and brightest students. It is a sample of the whole region. And the fact is that through project-based learning, it's 100% passing rate on all of the region's exams. Good teaching, if teaching is done well, you don't have to worry about the test, whether it be Common Core or not.
And if you could respond to Kanika, please.
First off, I'm constantly amazed when I listen to students like Kanika, because it's exactly why we're all here and what we're all about. When I'll be really happy is when Kanika says, not you, Kanika, but when a student similar to Kanika says, I want to be a math teacher, and her parents say, we want you to be a math teacher. We're friends with this family. I'll only refer to this young lady as Katie. Katie is today an architect with a local, well-known architectural firm. She wanted to be a math teacher, and her parents didn't want her to be. There is a lot of negativity about public education right now in this country, and it's sad. And that negativity is flowing over and causing a lot of other things to happen. And one of those things is, and on a very micro level, is people like Katie not being a math teacher and not having an opportunity to teach students like Kanika. We need to change that mindset in our society, which is so overly negative right now toward public education, because it's going to be public education that makes all of this stuff possible. There's some teachers from Cap Region BOCES here. One is carrying stuff out, but I'm gonna mention him in particular. I was with one of his staff. There he is carrying stuff out. He's stealing things, I think. No. We did a commercial for WNYT, the STEM Expo, back a month or so ago, and the student that we did the commercial with, he's going to be a senior this year, and he's talking about welding, and he's going to be getting a job welding on the Tappan Zee Bridge, and talking about out of high school beyond six-figure income. And the way he looks at it is, you know, he'll put some money away and then college down the road if he needs to, but you know, this is an option for that student that is incredible, that a lot of students don't get exposed to. Options for Kanika are incredible that not a lot of students get exposed to. We need to be exposing them to these things in any possible way that we can. I think this partnership is going to be a great way of exposing it and bringing light to it.
Thank you very much, Chuck. And no student loan with that opportunity too. So
Can I just add something too?
Yes,
The question was really interesting about teaching. And the value of a teacher. Teachers are a dime a dozen. These teachers are doing wonderful work when they're out there. But I think this partnership is showing you something new. We can think outside the box, and teaching can be an integrated approach. At the community college, we have professional teachers, professors and all that, but we also have adjuncts. And adjuncts are individuals from the community that are working in that field that come on, and they offer a plethora of knowledge that we just necessarily can't get out of the textbook, but you're learning. And this whole partnership is going to be opening up all new doors. Again, when we talk about through the State University of New York, there's a big thing right now, a big push for we have to better address adaptive learning. And adaptive learning is how are we bringing different modes of learning to that style that the student needs, whether you're doing it online, whether you're doing it with hands-on experiences, whether you're doing it through textbook. How is that student, how are we going to capture that brilliant mind? And how are you going to make that brilliant mind then be able to give back full force to our economy and help us thrive? So there's so many opportunities, and this is just a beautiful example of how this partnership is going to be opening up new pathways for our students.
Wonderful. And Matt and Chris, anything to add to Kanika's?
Are we on? It is on, yes. All right, slightly, but I'm loud enough anyway, usually. What I was most impressed with Kanika's comments is at somebody her age, it's rare to find people who already know how to transfer their skills into a specific occupational career path. Again, I'll harken back to my years of working at the State Department of Labor and seeing all sorts of individuals who have been downsized, dislocated, and many of them say, oh, I have to go back and start from scratch. Well, no, you don't, because you come with a background. Yes, you might have been let go. Yes, maybe the skills that you do have are starting in the industry starting to be outdated, but you have other skills that you can transfer into that. And she was able to take the engineering components and the disciplines and relate those to how they could be used in a medical career interest, which I think, you know, we have master's trained employment counselors who don't see that. So that's what I took away that I think was just, you know, phenomenal. And when we, you know, it warms my heart when I see young people, you know, with that type of intellectual vision to be able to really know what it is that they want to do, because it's about perseverance, really. I mean, and you know, Dr. Aslan will attest to this. At the community college, we work with students that, in many instances, perseverance is the biggest challenge. And the ability to take, you know, certain skills that they may understand or see, and how can I use those, no matter what they may be. Sometimes they're skills that were used in ways on the street that are illegal, but you can still, you know, we've had so many people come and turn their life around and come to the community college and use those skills. in different areas. So I applaud Kanika.
Okay. Chris, anything?
Surely. Where to start? I am absolutely staggered at the brilliance and stunning articulation. You're amazing. You remind me, certainly, of my own daughter, who, before she was 21, graduated from the University of Puget Sound with 2 four-year degrees, magna cum laude. I see you having absolutely boundless potential. Congratulations.
Oh, that's great. I think it would be good, before we move into audience participation, if we have any, to talk about how we attract adults to some of the training, retraining opportunities, or how we attract adults as parents that need to be better informed in terms of advising their children on career paths. All of that empowerment is important. How do we draw that attention span into this epicenter of manufacturing with grade school, middle school, high school opportunities, and or their training, retraining potential as perhaps an employee? So there's 2 aspects there, parents and employees.
If I could start with the parent piece, and I've been to a number of different panel discussions related to workforce issues and workforce development. And I keep saying we need to get a parent at this table. I would love to be able to speak to Kanika's parents, or I would love to be able to find a parent who is that naysayer parent that says, no, I want Johnny to be a lawyer or a doctor. I mean, Eileen can probably attest to this. Dave Davis from Simmons Machine Tool tells a great story. Well, if you want to go to some of the 4-year programs, and I'm not, discounting them in any way, shape, or form, but I'll see you pouring my coffee at Starbucks. If you want a good career, learn how to do something with your hands and learn some technical skills. I think we need to engage more parents in these discussions and have them at this table. I'd be happy to sit out there and listen to some parents. So I would encourage those who are organizing these types of discussions to start including parents at these. Again, I mentioned that dinner table discussion. It's immensely difficult in today's rush society. But I know in my family, my wife and I try to sit down with our 5th grader and our 8th grader every night for dinner. And we talk about the day. We talk about what went on that day in school, what did you learn, and we're trying to create that vision and have those dinner table discussions, and it needs to occur. I know it's a challenge, but I think we can all work towards adjusting our schedules to make sure that those discussions, whether it's at the dinner table or at some point, they need to occur.
Anyone else want to take a crack at that adult involvement? Definitely.
I would just say getting students excited at earlier ages parents will come along. It's that grassroots kind of thing. I wish that we had programs like this for my daughters because, I don't know what they'll do when they're done with college, but they have shifted their thinking as well to look at health professions because that's a growing career opportunity. But yeah, everybody talked to them about being lawyers and doctors. So.
And I think there's that concept too. We always are quick to assess youth as tomorrow's leaders, when in fact they're today's leaders. They can oftentimes be that inspiration and that leadership thing where they educate those of us who are older. I remember in Amsterdam at St. Mary's Hospital, Sister Rita Jean set up a Beltman program when the seatbelt was just coming into law. And it started with a high school boy wearing these skin-tight leotard things with a Beltman sash, and it became so popular they developed Belt Woman. And a person saw me one day, a constituent of mine, and I was in the assembly and helped get the grant for the program. And she said, "Are you working with Sister Rita?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And I was smiling and so proud. She said, "Well, then I want to talk to you." And I got a lecture on how she could not back her car out of the driveway without her daughter in the car saying, "Mommy, Mommy, you need to do what Beltman says." And she said, and she insisted that I put on the seatbelt before we got out of the driveway, and she was not happy with me. So many times you are the leaders, and we need to recognize that our students are leaders and teaching many of us.
Kathleen is absolutely right, and Kanika is on target in terms of our students need to be the ones to carry this message. Their parents will listen. A good example, district superintendents, there's 37 of me in New York State. We've been talking to the commissioner and to the Board of Regents for probably 3 to 4 years now on a career pathway option for students in high school. Not a lesser diploma, but a diploma that is rigorous but has a career pathway option to it. It wasn't until last spring when a group of students met with the Board of Regents and started talking about what they were going to be doing and also how much money they were going to be making, that the Regents members started really giving this, in my opinion, serious consideration. And right now it looks like probably this month or next month, the Board of Regents is going to approve a career pathway option for high school students. And it was students that pushed them over the edge. So absolutely, people who are in our high schools, we need to get our students engaged in this idea, and the students will make sure that the parents are engaged.
And I would also encourage our students to demand it of us. Someone was always there for us when we were growing, and this dumbing down on investment in education is unacceptable. So demand, as students, demand that you get these opportunities, because you go around once in this education thing formally with pre-K through 12, it better be done correctly. So I would encourage you to demand it of us as a society, because you are worth it. So, Kanika, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to say something back onto the parents aspect that we were talking about the parents' point of view and them talking to their students about what career they would like to go into. I just there's a little light bulb going in my mind. There are the parents that don't talk to their kids though. If we looked at the other aspect, we have the blessed kids like I am myself, who my parents talk to me about my future. They're they help me focus on school. But there are the students that sadly they don't have that parental support and education. So I was just thinking we would need someone in the schools or some trusted figure, whether it be a guidance counselor, whether it be a mentor, no matter who that person is, to help the students if they don't have that home background, that home support, to gain that support to help them go on to their career paths.
Great. So that provides for a multifaceted opportunity to alert and ignite the senses about the potential of engineering, math, science, and all of those good things. Okay, it's audience participation time, and something you've all been waiting for. So I think, first and foremost, will you please give our panelists a round of applause? They've been super. So where do we start? Raise your hand if you, Jeff will get to you. Let's go right here, and we'll start with either a question or comment, whatever you choose.
I think this is a little bit of both. I agree that it's, as Matt has said, it's a dinner table discussion. It's the type of thing where we have to get the parents involved, and how do we do that? And I think we have the wherewithal to do it. In other words, I think that we have, sometimes we'll have parents on our school board. And can we get those people to come to meetings like this? Sometimes we might be able to get to touch base with somebody on the PTA and get them to come to these meetings. And parents need to know that. And I think that one of the things that is so negative about higher education right now is the tremendous cost. The cost of a four-year degree is beyond the grasp of many most middle-income families. And that may work to our advantage, because parents are going to look for an alternative, and this is the kind of thing I think that would help.
Right. Good comments. I think, if you're going to lead, as Dr. Spring indicated, she has great support with her school board members. But if you're going to lead, it should be done with great awareness of opportunities out there. So maybe sensitivity training for, I think there's school board training, right, when you get elected. And I don't know offhand if any of the STEM or tech impact is part of that development, but perhaps we should look at that as a part of the program training. Who else had their hands up? Jeff, we can go back to you if no one else.
All right, Dr. Spring said something key when the discussion was on parents, that our kids are looking towards the healthcare because that's where the growth is. And what the problem may be is we're not raising the flag and saying, here's the other places where there's growth. And therefore, the parents don't say there's growth. Likewise, Kanika, extremely important point that not all children have parents that will talk with them about these things. And that's really that's part of the other side of the problem. So both those need to be addressed, I think.
Anyone want to comment on? Sure, Matt.
I would, again, I'll do my occupational analysis. I can probably yell loud enough, but I'll put my occupational analysis hat back on. And for many of my years at the Department of Labor, I sat next to Jim Ross, the regional labor market analyst. So by osmosis, I learned a little bit about this. I think that was a very good point. Manufacturing, when you look at the numbers, strictly at the numbers, you see decline in manufacturing. You consistently see that. But what you don't see is the replacement need. So many individuals just look at the job counts. It's straight looking at the job numbers, and they see there's decline. A lot of that is because of innovation and technology and in ways in which manufacturing is now done. But there's a huge replacement need as these baby boomers are aging out of these manufacturing careers, and that there are immense job openings, and I'm sure Chris and Eileen could speak to it, many of which go unfilled, back to the point I was making with the National Skills Coalition report. So healthcare is very easy to show job growth. It consistently shows the growth when you're just looking at the numbers. So another area, I think for professional development for teachers and guidance counselors is labor market analysis and how to really analyze that data to look at that, because a lot of times I've heard it many instances, students will say, oh, my guidance counselor said don't go into manufacturing because there's no jobs there, it's in decline. Well, no, there are many jobs there because of the aging out of the baby boomers and the skill sets associated with that. And we're slowly starting to see reshoring of manufacturing come back, so hopefully those numbers will even stabilize. But I think that was a very good point.
Can I say something?
Sure. Yeah,
okay.
please.
I wanted to talk a little bit. We run a program with Schenectady City Schools on an early college high school program, and we get to do a lot of work with parents. And we've been talking to parents about what are the challenges, what are the obstacles that you have. And there's so many things out there, they get so many mixed messages. When I went to college, I was told, plan on changing your major 4 to 6 times. Imagine that. But financial aid was a different ball of wax back then. Nowadays, you can't do that. When our students are coming to us, even at the community college right now, you really need to know what it is that you want to head to and what career is it that you want. That puts pressure. That puts pressure on the student, it puts pressure on the family, it puts pressure on the college to make sure that we're making the right choice for those students as well, and that they're making a choice collaboratively with us. So the challenge is out there. How do we get that message out there, and how do we do creative ways to get the parents to understand all these different options, and how do we advertise that as a community? And it's really not a problem that's just in the household. That's what I wish to challenge. It's all of our problem. It's a societal problem. How do we educate people about the jobs that are going to be out there tomorrow when your child's ready to graduate? And they could be graduating right now at grade 10. We've been showing with our Smart Scholars program, we had students that could complete up to 34 credit hours from taking college credits with us from 9th grade to 12th grade. They were already into their second, or in one case, we even had one ready to go into the 3rd year of their college. We're saving them money. There's ways that we can do it to help them navigate through the FAFSA and different things. It's just how do we communicate with people and alleviate that fears that are out there. We did a program for 2nd graders at the college, And the keynote speaker was talking to these second graders saying, I can talk to you about careers, but I'm going to tell you by the time you're a senior and ready to graduate, those careers are all going to be different. You're going to have more options than anybody else can imagine right now, right at this moment. And that's the beauty of what we're facing. And that's the beauty, again, about this partnership and how we get to design something that's so unique and so wonderful. So,
Super.
thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Martha. Anyone else want to comment about that? Any other questions, comments? Chad has something he wants to say. As we're getting the mic to Chad, let me thank him for helping advance the wonderful film on Make It in the USA, Make It in America, which drew a huge audience down the street at Proctor's Theater, and I had the wonderful pleasure to greet him and others who were part of that film in Washington as we showcased it for members of Congress, and it was introduced by our minority whip, Representative Steny Hoyer from Maryland. So, Chad, thank you for putting Schenectady on the map with that whole thing, and it was a great film. So, a question or a comment?
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for all the participation and for everyone being part of this panel tonight and moving the ball forward. I came from a budget meeting before this with the city, and when we talk about school budgets and funding and receiving 50–60% of your allotted money from the state or federal or however that trickles down, when we look at new projects like this, the Center for Advanced Technology at Mohonasen, how do those budgets, those school budgets, get impacted when it comes time for passing the school budget? And as we talk about cutting faculty and cutting librarians and things like that, how do we fund these projects? And is there room for more private-public partnerships? As we've traveled around today to Applied Robotics and what they're doing, and they've given, I chatted with Joanne there, and they've offered at least 5 or 6 different schools have come in and toured their facility over the last week, which is just really incredible. And I think it speaks to this hunger for private industry to engage with our educational system. And Glenn with STS Steel and all that he's done in purchasing the American-made movie curriculum and all of that. So it's exciting, but I wonder if there's more opportunity for those types of partnerships moving forward.
Okay, we got a great team to respond to that, so who wants to start?
Yes. The fact is that in a lot of cases, we have to take more advantage of existing partnerships. One of the things that, for instance, isn't something that's generally known, but all approved career and technical education programs that are run throughout the state, one of the requirements is to have a business advisory group. I'm going to, Terry Sweat, who's our CTE, who runs our CTE program, and is just extraordinary at doing that job. She wanted me to say that. First, Terry, how many business advisory groups, how many businesses are involved in an advisory capacity? Just a ballpark figure. So, yeah, so 200 businesses are involved at Cap Region BOCES in one way or another with programs that we're operating. And the fact is that that's not something that's generally known. We've got to do a better job of making sure that people are aware of that. We've got to do a better job of asking our partners to make people aware of that. A lot of times our partners will come to meetings and they'll give their ideas at the meetings and then they'll leave and go back to their business. We need to be more out there with that idea of partnership. We need to be promoting these partnerships more and reaching out more. One of the things that we're going to be doing is we recognize that, and we're going to be bringing in a community business liaison person who's going to be making more connections with business that's going to further grow programs that we do with all of our school districts. So this is something that it can grow, it has to grow, and I think under the right kind of circumstances with the right kind of leadership, like Dr. Spring, it will grow.
Part of the plan, the building will open in 2 years. So part of our plan is to backwards kind of map what we need to do. And we needed to first get the project approved and make sure our partnerships were solid. And part of the plan now is to put together a business advisory group to figure out how we can sustain funding, because it will be a challenge, there's no doubt. But we also think that this can be a model for the state, for the country, and that we should be awarded grant funding to run this as well. So I think there's a lot of potential.
Next question or comment, anyone? While we don't see any, let me toss out one other issue, and that's remediation, which I've heard about for years, where students will enter into campuses and they're doing prep work so that they can get back up to the skill set they need. How do you envision a program like this that has this new twist on it, the new spin on it, which obviously has excited folks like Kanika? How do you think that affects the need for remediation programs at the college level, college entry level? Anyone?
Go ahead, you go first.
Okay. I think that part of the issue is because we haven't had really good connections in the past, that we'll be able to communicate what you expect our students to be able to come out of high school with. And hopefully this partnership, just being in the same building together, it will be a natural way to communicate and talk about expectations. So I hope that that will be alleviated somewhat with this partnership.
And of course, I need to be a little bit more provocative, and I'm sorry. I was on a panel that was put together by Chancellor Zimpher on the remediation issue. And one of the things that I think is a real issue in the state is the fact that, and please forgive me, okay, forgive me, that there is no one uniform system to identify what the remedial needs are for students in the state university system. The fact is that what Schenectady Community College may identify as a need for remediation for a student may not be something that another SUNY school identifies. And the fact is that right now that remediation, I'm not going to, the remediation label is used in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places. So I think until we get to the point where there's a little bit more uniformity, which I'm not sure if there will be based on the way the SUNY system operates. The SUNY system is more of a confederation than it is a United States. And I'm not sure if we're going to get to that point. But I think the important thing is that we're working together. As long as we're working together, then we will have some more idea of what SCCC looks for, or what HVCC looks for, and what Adirondack Community College looks for. So the important thing is that we're working together toward a common goal. And that's what this partnership is all about. But remediation in itself is a huge issue that we could probably do a couple forums on that.
The devil made me do that, I guess.
And I wanted to go back to that adaptive learning. So there's different ways that you can be teaching what it is that the individual needs to learn. And so when we call it remediation, there's a model that we're doing right now that seems to be working in Schenectady City Schools. And again, a Smart Scholars program that we have, just as an example, it's a program that's taking students that are 65% going into the 9th grade. Their average score right now is 65%. They're barely passing. They're not excelling in certain things, but how are we bringing it? So one of the things that we've done that's been really creative in the classroom is both a tutor at all times that's going to help with the remediation, the classroom teacher, and at times the college, who's ever teaching, whether it be adjunct or professor from the college, it's in there. You have 3 people in that room that's team teaching that course, and they're integrating that learning into an environment that student's going to be able to adapt and pick up on it. And we've really got to start thinking too that learning again can be different hours. So what we're doing after the school hours, what we might be doing in the morning, there's different ways that we can be adapting that learning style to best meet the need that they have. Thinking outside the box, so I agree with you, and we've got to challenge ourselves, we've got to challenge our communities, and we've got to challenge the schools. How are we going to make that happen? So that's my little tidbit on it. I don't know.
Yeah, just very quick. I mean, Martha touched on this. We run a non-credit training program for health professions, and we use a model program called IBEST, which stands for Integrated Basic Education and Skills Training. And Martha hinted to it a bit. It basically incorporates a basic education instructor, team teaching with a clinical instructor. So as you are working on the remediation of the math, you are immediately applying that in the next 2 minutes to how that applies to the clinical instruction piece of it. So as we talk about project-based learning, as we talk about applied learning, there are ways to do that. The key is to get those teachers in the room and get them cohesive and get them so that they know where the handoffs are, and that takes a little bit of time for them to learn, you know, when to how to build that trust and how to build that fluid. But we've been operating an IBEST cohort in our health professions grant for about 2 years now, and we have about a 90% completion and success rate in that. And so these are some of the types of things that we certainly would look forward to bringing into the collaboration and into the new building.
Thank you, Martha. Any other comments or questions from the floor? Yes, sir. Thank you all for participating, by the way, tonight. It's a great topic, I think.
Yes, one of the things I'm sort of wondering about is what about helping someone to get help pay off their loans. Say if they're not able to actually get into the career or the quote job that is paying enough so they can actually start paying off their student loans.
So in other words, like a loan forgiveness program or something. Any ideas there? Anyone?
There's a little bit I can say. There's so many things out there that we're trying to look at to help people, and a lot of that too is educating early on about the loans that you're taking out. At the community college, we've really set off on a path that we really want to make sure that people aren't going into default, and how do we help you without getting into default, and are there things that we can be doing differently? And so we've had a task force that's coming together to start talking about not only our student need, but across the State University of New York system. How do we help people understand that? And we don't have the answers yet, but there's some solutions out there that we need to start tapping into.
I'm less concerned with the SUNY system and the Schenectady community colleges of the world than I am the private for-profit universities that are soaking people and their money. It's terrible what's happening. There's a lot of advertising that's taking place and a lot of people spending a lot of money on for-profit universities with graduation rates of around 10%. So there's some issues there too.
Yes, you know what, we're going to go to Frank first, and then we'll come back this way.
Yeah, I'm Frank Wexford. I'm 3 years right here with the Edison Tech Center, and that's right. We're at the Edison Tech Center, and I guess we celebrate the kind of the tradition of manufacturing, creativity here in the region, and we have kind of an international audience, but we don't have as much as we'd like locally. So I think we'd like to look for ways we can actually partner with each one of you here. Craig here is the president, and he's always available. And
well, we thank you for that partnership.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay. Yes, sir.
Thanks, and thanks for the second opportunity to speak. I'll try not to monopolize the conversation here tonight, but my question would be directed to Matt and Martha. What is your current experience with, how are you helping the vets helping the veterans returning from the wars that we've had in the last 10 or 15 years? How are you helping them to get back on their feet and find a good paying, either a good paying, mid-range job or a good paying, good job?
Do you want to start or you want me to?
I can start, sure. One of the programs that we have, actually it's a system-wide, the 30 community colleges applied for a federal U.S. Department of Labor grant called the Trade Act Adjustment and Community College Career Training Grant. Two targeted populations that grant serves, which is Trade Act eligible dislocated workers. Your job has been moved offshore, and the returning veterans. So, and thankfully, with offshoring not occurring as frequently, the Trade Act petitions have been going down. Really more of the focus is on the veteran population and how can we serve them. The focus of this grant is exclusively on advanced manufacturing. There are 6 new certificate programs that are being developed throughout the SUNY system. So what SUNY did is they looked at the core curriculums at the associate's degree level that many of the colleges have, and they asked those colleges to take the lead on developing a 1-year credit-bearing certificate. Now, most of our credit-bearing certificates usually have the option to be able for those credits to be transferred and accepted into an associate's degree. The purpose of this was to take the experiences of the returning veterans and be able to apply what we call prior learning assessment, or credit for their military experience. We can also do it for credit for previous work experience. Apply that to their coursework, and in many instances, a veteran may be able to complete a 1-year certificate program in a 6-month period, and even in 1 semester. Locally here, we're working on the development of a new certificate in mechatronics, which is this combination, the blend of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. A lot of this was at the direction working with business partners at Superpower here in Schenectady and with Global Foundries. A lot of the automation uses skill sets associated with mechatronics. So we're really targeting this towards the returning vets, and I sit on a marketing committee for the consortium to really look at how are we now reaching out to the vets, going right to the transition assistance centers as soon as the vets are coming back from their tour, and really, getting information to them right on the outset about, thank you for your service. Now we owe you the gratitude of being able to provide you with training so that you have a job, to come home to. So that's one area that we're working on. I know the colleges, we do have a veterans office, and I don't know if that's what you were going to talk about.
So the best way we learn how to work with vets is talk to vets and find out what are the needs that are out there. And with community colleges right now in the state system, one of the greatest things that we were hearing is we as community college have been adaptable to whatever their needs are. So if they get called to duty or they have to relocate someplace else, our online courses, or if you're even taking a classroom course with us, how can we turn that really quickly around for you to make it an online environment so you don't have to drop that course or continue. So we've done some neat programming. But a fun thing that came out of talking to vets, they want to be able to see these different schools. They want to learn what it's like, and how can I do that without having to physically go to see that college? And so you're going to see a lot more of higher education of institutions right now. If you go onto their webpage, you can take a virtual tour of that campus. There is no need for you to have to set foot in their admissions office or do anything. Even our campus now, as small as we are, you have a virtual tour, you have a little guided little avatar that takes you around, and you get to pick the language that you want. It's to teach that it's open at any time, and there's different things that we can do and how flexible we are. We've adapted some programs recently, and we're in the process of talking about, we have a pilot program, and we're hearing from several vets in this area as well as down in Newburgh area that there's a need to have helicopters licensed. So we're looking to how do we evolve our program, and at a community college we can do that much quicker than some of the state-operated campuses. How do we evolve it so that we can help them get their life experiences and get credit for what they've been doing, and then add on this helicopter program. So there's always constant changes that are happening, and that's just an example.
Yeah, and I'll just add that yesterday I was at a jobs fair. Marilyn and I were at this jobs fair for veterans, and the point I was making with a number of the groups there was that we have 3 dynamics. Matt was speaking of the transfer of skill sets that are learned through the military that are cutting edge. And so they're very valuable to the innovation tech economy here in the region. There's also a precision orientation. You know, what they do is just so targeted precision that that's very helpful as a mindset in the workforce. And then finally, just the discipline that's been governing them in their service to the country produces a sound work ethic. And we've all heard that discussion quite often about, you know, just developing the work ethic as something that's very important to the employer community. So, yeah, there's good strength there. Any other comments or questions? Oh, that's right. I was reminded and I forgot. I'm sorry, Kanika. Kanika wanted to respond probably 3 questions ago, but
I actually had a question of my own, and I'll elaborate on it a little bit. I was wondering, is there any way, as we have all these companies here and all these administrative positions, to have field trips either after school or on the weekends? Because personally, I couldn't go on the STS Steel Greeno field trip because I had a pre-calc test. You can't exactly like miss those, like when you're in like a rigorous academic field, you can't miss school as much as you'd like to gain that experience. And field trips are really like experience-based opportunities. Like I know that we have a sound booth at Mohonasen High School, and I know a lot of my friends, they like work in the sound booth and they're like, yes, this is what I want to do, because they gain the experience, they know what they're going into. So I wish I could have that experience of going to the various companies and seeing, is this what I like or is this what I don't like? Because either way, it's important information, feedback going back to you to know based on your decision what you want to do in your career. So I was just wondering, is there any way for us to incorporate it either after school or on the weekend so it's easier for kids to participate in them without missing their academic rigorous classes?
It doesn't go reach.
It's okay. I think my point was made.
Here we go. This one goes far.
This one works.
This one, shall I repeat? We are absolutely pleased. Yes. Without question.
If you want to come over to STS Steel, you can come over, just call. Anytime. Call her and I'll take you around myself. So I'll do that. And I would open that to, I think we can maybe think of ways to provide that opportunity to students. I didn't realize how much of an impact that it has on students. And also Mackenzie asked me to come over and speak to a group of 4th to 8th graders, which could be pretty scary, about engineering. And I think that is important, as you were saying on the committee, but also, you know, Kanika's passion is something that it's not just finding a great job and that pays well, but to find a job that you really love, and to see the kind of passion she has about what she's been exposed to miss that, to me would be a real tragedy that we have an opportunity to expose students to the things that we're doing, manufacturers are doing, or anybody else you know, whether they're a doctor or anything else. I think if we could get that interaction with at younger ages, like we're doing at Mohonasen, I think that would be a really good opportunity for the community to interact with, and the business community to interact with the academic community to help share what they have a passion for, because you don't know what kind of spark you're going to start with somebody. You know, your enthusiasm is really contagious. So
Okay, and I think we have one more comment. And if you don't mind, you can.
No, I don't mind. That's okay. That's okay. It's actually more of a comment and a point of sharing. Chris mentioned when he gave his presentation, and a question followed, which was, Mr. Ringley, can you comment as to the disparity between what you're seeing and what you need, and why do you think that students aren't actually reaching and engaging? I have a background in working with students who learn differently, special needs kids, and it's special needs kids actually on the higher end of the scale. And what we found in that community was that experiential learning was absolutely the key to unlocking these children.
And I hear and see a very vibrant response in this young lady based on the opportunity to experience, see, and engage. And the challenge was, well, how do we take that down into middle school? Well, I would say that you already have the answer as educators. It is experiential learning. Make it fun. It's her words. Make it fun. And the opportunity for these kids to come in and experience what manufacturing could be and actually touch it and see it, I think would be very compelling and would facilitate the change that this very learned panel is looking to accomplish. So it's more of a comment than anything else.
It's, I think it's a right-on comment, and if there are no other questions or comments, I think it's an awesome way to close. I would ask that you give all of our panelists a round of applause. And let's just boast and crow about all the great things happening in manufacturing, this Manufacturing Week and beyond. We just keep the message going. And again, our thanks for everyone joining in this discussion, this community discussion, which has been great. Thank you for all of the participants. And on behalf of Konica and Company, we thank you for your participation tonight.